First tribute is from Joyce, a Beta Sigma Phi sorority sister of Paula's.
Paula was one of my closest, dearest friends. We've been in Beta Sigma Phi together almost 60 years. She could always make me laugh. The story I want to tell about Morris and Paula is, after our kids got grown, we said, well, let's go camping together, but not do anything fancy. We'll meet on I-70. We met on I-70, we put up the tent, we got the groceries out, and we opened them up, and we almost had exactly the same thing and almost the same brands. And Morris said, well, if you put them both in a sack, you'd never know which one fell out.
This next tribute is from Betty, another one of Paula's Beta Sigma Phi sisters.
Probably one of the greatest stories that I remember was Paula going to the lake with us. She went several times, but every time was an adventure, and mostly she liked getting up early in the morning and going out and sitting on the deck and watching the sunrise and just enjoying the peace of the moment. She really enjoyed that more than anything about fishing or getting down to the water to fish. But we always had a good time. At nighttime, she always had her dominoes. She taught me different domino games that I had never heard of before, but she seemed to really enjoy her dominoes in the evening and talk. We always had a lot to talk about. But my son in my family was there, and so they all enjoyed Paula. And so my son, this one day, kept asking her about going on a sea-doo with. So she was interested, and she finally did get on, but she still wore her slacks and everything. And she got on the sea-doo and had him promise he would take her slow, but and they did. He took her for a pretty good ride, and finally, by the time they were coming back, she was wanting him to go faster and faster, and so
Our next tribute video is from Mona, a neighbor to Paula for many years.
I met Paula the first time when she came over to my house to my baby shower that the neighbors was having for me that night, and she had been sick all day, but she got all ready to come over to my baby shower. And after that, we were best friends for 58 years, and we did everything together. We could even share clothes if we needed to, and but she was always there for me. She was always around when I needed her, and but we had some really fun times going to the lake and just mostly knocking around, shopping and sharing dinner and visiting, but she was a special lady.
This next tribute is from Dottie, another one of the Beta Sigma Phi sorority sisters.
Dottie Reilly, and I met Paula through sorority at Beta Sigma Phi over 50 years ago. That was even before I was married. So we've known each other for a long, long time, and we became very good friends. And I knew I was a really good friend when I would go to visit her and she'd put her cat up. She'd lock the cat in the bedroom so that I could come because I was allergic to cats. And she loved cats. And then she always thought of, when we talked, she always said that Marvella and Joyce and I were like her sisters she never had. And we really were. Our husbands liked each other very much, got along, which meant we got to go to all the parties together, go out to dinner together, and really enjoy it. Even our families liked it. My kids loved going to the breakfast where your dad would fix, Paul Morris would fix the eggs and the potatoes, and Kenny'd fix biscuits and gravy, and they had a great time. So, but all this time we were just there. And I think Paula and I talked on the phone more than I've ever talked to anybody. We used to talk about everything under the sun. We'd especially talk about our problems with breathing, give the doctors a fit for not treating us better and giving us better medicines. And really, we just got to enjoy family and everything. And I said we couldn't have had a better relationship. And I will treasure my memories of Paula all my life.
Our next memorial tribute is from Kim, who had Paula as a kindergarten teacher.
Well, my greatest memory of your grandmother would be when I got married. My husband and I are standing there getting ready to do the arm get together and take a drink. And all of a sudden, I hear this, "Sip, Kimmy, sip!" And I heard a little giggle. And so I will never forget that. It's made that very special.
The next special memory to share is from Jean Jones, who knew Paula and Morse since back in the college days at Oklahoma State University.
Paula and I have been friends since 1952. The way Morse and Paula met, Morse and two of my friends and I rented an apartment in Stillwater. We were just maybe a block off the campus. My friend, or one of our roommates, Lloyd Anderson, he and I were in a history class together, and we were sitting back 4 or 5 rows back from the front. When the class was over, I looked up in front and I said to Lloyd, I said, "Well, that's you're a good-looking blonde on the front row." And he kind of looked around the person in front of him and didn't say anything. The class was over. I had to get out of there. I had another class halfway across the campus. I couldn't dilly that around. So as I walk out the door, I look back to see where Lloyd is. I see he's up there talking to this blonde. Well, this blonde happened to be Paula Haver, who was I don't know that she was a roommate with Paula in school, but she lived down the hallway just a door or two in the dorm. And so anyway, it must have been around Christmas time in 1951. Morse belonged to the Alpha Gamma Rho fraternity, and he said to Lloyd, "Do you suppose Paula Haver can get me a date for the dance that's coming up?" So I said, "Well, let's see what happens." Well, it turns out that the person that she got a date with was Paula Bible, who is Paula Plummer, and that's the way they met. And Paula and I have have been friends since the spring of basically about the winter of 1952. A more dedicated individual I've never met. She was really a wonderful person. She not only will be missed by by her family, but by me too.
Our next video tribute is from Lois and Bill Morton, longtime family friends.
Oh, I remember Paula. And the funniest story I remember of Paula and Morris was in the garage up in the attic rearranging Paula's stuff. And Paula was on the ladder chatting with him and handing him things. For some reason, Paula decided to get off the ladder, and she fell and broke her ankle. And as she went down, she took the ladder with her. So there's Morris up there in the attic, and there's Paula on the garage floor. And Morris can't get down, Paula can't get up, so she crawls in the house on her hands and knees to find and finally get help to get Morris down. Do I remember Paula?
Well, there's a lot of funny stories about Paula because she just was so full of life and fun. But when Morris was in the hospital at the end, Paula isn't going to be away from him for a minute. And she said, I'm going to stay here with you. And Morris wondered, where's she going to sleep? And she talked to a nurse and she said, oh, you can't stay here overnight. And Paula said, you don't understand. I'm staying here with him. I'm taking care of him. So they got a cot for her and she stayed. And then Bill and I would go over at lunch, and it was just a good time of day to see Morris. And Paula would be there, and I said, Paula, what are you doing for clothes? How can you wear the same stuff all the time? And she said, oh, I got a neighbor down the street that comes in. I have my clothes in a bag here for her, and she takes them home, washes, brings them back the next day. I said, oh, you are so lucky, but what can we do, Paula? What could we do? And I asked Morris too, and Paula said, maybe you could bring us lunch because the food's not that good here. And he likes to eat something at noon. He's hungry then. So that's what we started our daily trip. We'd go and we were getting them sandwiches, really good ones for a while, made up at a deli. But then Morris said, could you bring me some fruit sometime, Lois? And I never even thought about that he'd want fruit. We sure could, so we started bringing that. And it made a good excuse to go every day. We had to get ourselves up, get going, pick up something and get it over there to him. And it was just great to have them be together. And Paula made it a happy time for Morris. She didn't neglect him at all. He had constant care. So I saw a side of the two of them that made me think marriage is just pretty great.
Our next memory to share is from Terry Betzelberger, who had Paula as a kindergarten teacher.
Terry Betzelberger, and I had the privilege of having Paula as my kindergarten teacher in 1965. And I have so many wonderful memories of her, not when I was in kindergarten, but over the years since then, because she was such a wonderful friend. She was not only a great teacher, but she became such a super friend. And I also had the honor of having her husband Morris as my 5th and 6th grade teacher at Ridgeview. So I got to know both of them extremely well, and over the years, we stayed in contact and established a relationship that was like family. And I laugh because Paula was so funny in that she remembered exactly what I wore to my first day of kindergarten. To the shoes, the cute little socks, she said, and my shorts. And I was just amazed that over all those years she could continue to remember what I wore to kindergarten. But some of the best times that we had were later in the years when I would be able to take her to lunch for her birthday every year. And then we started going to lunches with Frank Bardwood. And then we started talking about the families and ours in particular, and she took an interest in our kids and now our granddaughter. And it's just been such a great ride that I've had with her, and I have so many wonderful memories. She's going to be dearly, dearly missed.
Our next memory to share is from Paula's eldest granddaughter, Jessica. It's hard to pick a favorite story about Grandma because she taught me so many things, and she's quite a unique person, and she really taught me the humor of life. And one of my favorite things to do with Grandma is just to go places. And we would go on a lot of trips together. And we would always talk in the car the whole time. And I was afraid of semi-trucks. And I remember I would just be braking around these semi-trucks and being a little unsafe. And she, you know, with her lecture and the finger, now Jessie. And she would tell me, now Jessica, hold up your balls and speed past that truck. All right. And she's coaching me through the whole thing. Now get further enough in front of the truck, you know, make sure he doesn't break and hit you. So I always think of her fun stories or fun life lessons every day, and they'll carry me through. The next fun memory to share is from Betty, a neighbor to Paula for many years.
Okay. I'm Betty Cree, and I've lived by Paula for years. We moved here in '68, and we immediately became friends. And Paula was teaching, and I was working, but we got together a lot of times and played cards on Saturday night. And sometimes we went to the Ramada and danced, which was kind of unusual. But the story I remember about Paula more is that she was coming home from school and she stopped at a school crossing sign, and someone behind her didn't stop, and they hit her car pretty hard. And she always wore a wig, and back in those days, and it knocked her back, and her wig fell off, and this gentleman stopped to help her, and she was saying, "Oh, where is my hair? Where is my hair?" And she said, the man said, "Well, it's here, it's on your head." No, my other hair. And her wig had fallen in the back, and he didn't know that that's what she was looking for. But we always got a laugh out of that. And I'm going to miss Paula very, very much, because in our older years after Morris died and my husband died, we visited a lot and were company for each other.
Our next video is from Kim, Paula's one and only beloved daughter.
My mom and dad both gave me many memories of laughter. Most of our camping trips were epic fails and involved a lot of laughs, whether it was trying to put up a tent after dark or wondering how the holes got punched in the roof of our pop-up tent camper. Actually, when family and friends were coming to say bye to my dad, my cousin Joe said, "Uncle Morris, you guys were always so bad at camping, I never could figure out why you didn't practice first."
The next tribute to Paula is from Jenna, another grandchild of Paula's.
It's very fitting that our grandma's being buried on April 1st, April Fool's Day, because growing up she was always such a jokester, and she joked around with us a lot and played a lot of pranks on us, but she never let us know if she was joking or not. She kind of had a little grin about her, but we'd always be talking to each other like, "Do you think she's joking or not?" And that's one of my favorite things about my grandma.